All right. Hi, TV2. So, this is my first time doing a lecture on Screencastify and with a laptop. This is weird. I'd rather be in person. First of all, you just have to ignore this little error thing. I can't get rid of it right now. I got my coffee and I'm ready to go. So, typically in class, we would be going over what we call News Package 101. You guys, we've taught you how to use the cameras, how to shoot. Now you've got some stuff on mobile shooting, which is great. And now we got to put it into practice and actually how do you assemble this. Now it's going to be different because obviously we don't have a bunch of our computers and Final Cut, so the editing is going to be a little more frustrating. Everybody's essentially going to have to kind of find out what works for them. I'll put up some links and some ideas for possible apps, software, things like that. If you have access to Final Cut Pro or Adobe Suite, and you could use Adobe Premiere, there is a learning curve with it, but those are two great programs, and obviously we use Final Cut. If you don't, there's also some free versions of things, and you can use something as simple as like an iMovie, which I hate to say, but if you got an Apple product, you can use it just to put some simple stuff together. There's also a couple video editing apps like KineMaster, but I'll put more stuff in Schoology on that. Today's focus is how do you actually put together that package. Oh, okay, go away, reminder. Okay, News Package 101. So telling the story. So when you guys actually go to like put together a news package, what are some of the important elements, right? It's not clicking forward. There we go. Play. Um, so the first and foremost is this, like, and I will harp on this, and you've heard me say it, and I'll say it a million times. Your ability to tell a story is going to be the most important part. I don't care how great your shots are. I don't care how great your audio is. I don't care how great any of those other components will mean nothing unless you can tell a good story, which for those of you who are really good at writing, this is going to be a huge benefit to you because your writing skills will really come into play here. So your ability to tell a story. Now, when we talk about the visual and the shots, obviously our shots are important. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying story is the most important part of it. When you look at it, big screen, not going to necessarily read everything because you guys can read, and I have this in Schoology as well. But essentially B-roll, and you guys are getting used to doing B-roll, from TV1, but more so as we get into TV2, we were going to start getting more into B-roll, right? You practice with your tight, medium, wide shots. Those are your basics, especially for news and broadcasting in a news package. You can get your creatives, but start with your tight, medium, wide shots. You see in big bold letters, use a tripod, stabilize it. Even if you're using a phone, they make phone tripods. If you don't have one, you can use something else, lean it up against something, use a book, use whatever you have to stabilize that shot. If you're using a tripod, use a rubber band on the handle to take out some of that shake. I mean, there's things that you can do to still apply. So get good footage, get good B-roll that's going to match your story, all that kind of stuff. And then there's all the reminders, which I'm not going to read through. We've taught you that. We've gone through that. But it's a helpful list to look back through just to be like, okay, yeah, I got to make sure I do all those things. When it comes to the sound, all right, use microphones. Now, I know a lot of you are shooting on phones. If that's the case, get really close to your subject. If you don't have any kind of a phone attachment. Now, I'm working on some phone attachments through Michigan State University is ones that they use and their students use that they recommend that are cheap, that you can get on Amazon. So for those of you who are really into this, I think it's somewhere between $20 and $30, which, like our mic kits are like $1,000. So $20-$30 isn't bad. I do not expect any of you to buy these, but if you're interested, I'll send you the information if you would like to. I've got some coming in to test myself. So get close, get nat sounds, get good sound for your interviews. Again, be close to your subject. If you don't have access to an actual microphone, you have to have good sound, both in your sound bites, your interviews, as well as your nat sounds. And don't forget about those nat sounds. You got to have those natural sounds, the book hitting the desk, the light clicking on, the basketball dribbling, the page turning. You can use those almost like punctuation in a sentence, as one of our Michigan State professors shared when he shared with our class in the past. So sound, very important. This is something I came up with a title for. I call it a reality shoot. Essentially, to do a really good story, not only do you have to do your interview, get your good shots, but you also have to capture their reality. And here's what I mean by that. So you always mic them for these because you're going to get little sound bites that you can use. If you're doing a story on a basketball team and this basketball player is just like, getting ready for the game in the locker room, you can put a mic on him, get his audio. He might say something like, oh man, we got a big game tonight. Whatever. He might say something under his breath or just give you a little comment or have some interaction with you. And now you've got it recorded. with good quality audio. And we actually will use those quick little sound bites in a story that will help it give it more variety and more interest and hold your viewers a little bit more. So you're recording them in their natural state. They might be washing the dishes, taking a walk with their dogs, depending on what's relevant for your story. Maybe they're running, which will show you an example of a story where they're doing some running and you're miking them while they run. So reality shoots are huge. I send my advanced students on these all the time. Okay, you got your interviews, you got your B-roll, but man, I need to capture their reality, and we're going to use that, both the B-roll and the sound. And then the edit, when you're piecing all this together, probably the most complicated part, I think. Okay, your ability to write and weave all of the elements together are huge. So what are you balancing? You have sound bites that you captured, or SOTs, S-O-T, sound on tape. That's the verbiage for it in broadcasting. Narration, your VOs or your voiceovers. You have natural sound bites, okay, nat sounds, music, B-roll, stand-ups. Maybe you have a reporter that's doing a stand-up, not only at an intro or maybe a close, or maybe they do a stand-up in between. So first thing I do, I check out all my footage. I see what I have. I organize it so I know where everything is. I favorite stuff so I know where my favorite clips are. I take notes on my interviews. What are some interesting sound bites or discussion points or some B-roll shots that I want to use? So I essentially get everything ready to organize. And then the next thing I do is I assemble a rough cut, which would have been easier for us in class with Final Cut. Because what I would do is I have my script open, Word document, something, Google Doc, doesn't matter. Have my editor open, which would have been Final Cut in class. I have a USB mic plugged in because I'm going to record some temporary voiceovers. And I have a vision already. It's kind of planned out. I know what the order of the story is in general. And then I just start putting it together. I start laying down the clips. First, I'm going to have this stand-up. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about this, and that's going to be a voiceover. Then I'm going to have this soundbite's going to come in. And then, and this is the part that's difficult. But this, you play with it, and you do your best as you start to kind of weave all these elements together. Beauty with editing on a computer, you can delete something, undo something, move something, try it again. And then I have my script open because I actually type every soundbite. I type every scripting that I do. And then what I do is I record a quick temporary voiceover just to plug it in there. Now, you might not have that luxury if you don't have a nice editor right now with a computer, but typically that's what we would do. And then I'd record it. And later at the end, I'll record a nice voiceover with a very solid microphone. Once I just kind of get the flow of it, make sure that I like it. Because the beauty of a temporary, you don't like it, delete it, write something else, record it, see how that feels and how that flows a little bit. And at the very end, you do all your detail, right? So I'm big on detail. Check your audio levels. Make sure your audio's and your music's not fighting with your voiceover. Make sure your levels are consistent. Make sure the levels are good. You're color correcting your clips and they're consistent. So if I color correct one clip in an interview, it looks the same. You can actually, in Final Cut, when we're in class, you can copy and paste those attributes. Obviously, you might, depending on your editor, who knows what you're able to do. Do the best you can. Check my B-roll. Does it look good? Is it consistent? Is there any jumps? Am I having jump cuts? Transitions, are those all good? Do I have any, flash frames of black? Is everything tight? Spelling, name banners, things like that. Background noise removal. Just go through all the details and putting it together. And then I put share. Before I put the share it with the world, I put share it for critique first. So give it to somebody that knows what they're doing. That's, a friend, somebody, and kind of share a little bit of your vision behind it and let them share with you some thoughts and critiques. And then eventually share it with the world. So that's, the basics of, if I'm going to assemble a news package, this is what I'm going to do. Now, our news packages are typically about 1:30 that we run in class. When you guys do your own, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to do about 1:30 as well. So now what I do is I want to take a look at some samples, a couple student ones, and then also one that is a professional. So the first one, this is cool. This story was, it says SDN Nationals 2019. So it was a first place in a community feature section in this contest. This was created by high school students, but I'm just going to play it. I am going to be a little bit annoying at times, and I am going to pause it to make some points and to kind of show you what they did a little bit or possibly back it up. So here we go. Let's start a little bit with this. Okay, you'll notice the first thing here, they did not start out with like, hi, welcome to this news. This is what's going on. They started out with a nat sound pop in. They popped into the story with a natural sound. They had some sound bites and the natural sounds of the bikes themselves. And then we're going to lead into the story.
Racing with siblings may be a
There's your
typical
voiceover
childhood activity for many kids. But for this 3-year-old, a basic game can be quite a difficult task.
I mean, I never.
Okay, those little sounds, we like, and again, we want those little sounds of her yelling like that. Typically, we would want her mic'd if we could, so that way it's a better quality. There's your interview. You can see that just popped in. We've already done this lesson, rule of thirds, natural light coming in. She's mic'd properly, chords hidden, all those kind of things.
I even expected her to walk, to be honest.
Nice name banner.
So to know that she can do these things is just, yeah, it's such a blessing.
Now, one thing that you might notice there, hopefully you picked it up, but there's a ton of background noise. So I don't know if it was the microphone issue or the camera issue or what, but that's why you always monitor with headphones if you can.
Kira was born here at Kaiser Hospital when the doctors noticed some unusual blistering and bleeding on her skin. She was then later diagnosed with dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa.
Wow, I was really impressed. She pronounced all that right. That would take a few takes. Nice job. She's dressed professional. She's out there doing her thing. Her stand-up was not at the beginning of her story. It was partway in, which is okay to do as well. But we got a nice laid out scene here for her stand-up.
Commonly referred to as the butterfly skin disease because of how fragile and sensitive it makes her skin.
So when she was first born, we were terrified of any little bump that she would get. And so we actually carried her around on a pillow and just try to be as careful as we could with her.
Kira's parents have to bandage her skin to protect her. This process can take hours, but
the shots, look at those shots. I mean, steady, close-up, focus. I love the extreme close-up work.
even in the most painful moments,
Sound.
she smiles.
See,
Taking
okay,
inspiration
pause that one. See how she used essentially that sound, like I mentioned earlier, like punctuation in a sentence, right? She kind of paused in her narration, her voiceover. That sound came in. She picked her narration back up.
Her attitude and how she's embraced it and is living with something that's such a challenge should be an inspiration to even us grown adults or as teenagers.
From learning the alphabet
This one, what letter is that?
to playing with her sisters,
Or that sound
Kira
use.
continues to grow as she receives love and support from her family,
Here we go. You ready to go outside?
making her journey just a little bit easier.
How much do you love your mom? That much? How about your sisters?
Yeah, you gotta kind of watch that mic getting into the shot there. They gotta be careful of that one. But I'm glad that they interviewed her and got her perspective. Even if she only gives you a few words, it's like a cute thing to have in your story.
Although her family may never know what is around the corner, with encouragement and donations from the community, Kira can continue to be a little girl who loves bubbles.
Ultimately, we need a cure, and if we want Kira to have any kind of normal or a longer life.
Reporting for WCTV 19 with photographer Hannah Mackenzie, I'm Julie West.
Okay, and they kind of do their sign off there at the end, of course, too, which we like to be able to do that. So, well done story, done by high school students, shot well. Overall, audio is good besides the mic issue. And you can see that weaving, you know, you got a voiceover, then you got a sound bite, then you got a nat sound, then you got another nat sound, and then you got another sound bite, and then narration again, then a stand up comes in. And that's the art of the craft and figuring out all of that stuff. So that's one. This is one more that I'm going to show you. I'll try not to over pause, but I do want to point out some stuff just like I would in class as well.
Change the face of beauty. One high
Told you I went over pause. They're just starting out with soundbite. Typically, most of my students, when they first start these, think they got to start with a stand up every time. Sometimes you can start out with a nat sound or just a little soundbite like this young lady is doing.
I'm tired.
You changed the face of beauty?
Yeah, I'll change the face of beauty.
Sophia Sanchez has Down syndrome, something that doesn't get in the way of telling her story.
Be kind. Please don't.
That one, and you'll notice how many different shots and how quick the shots are, and they're changing the depth of shot. So sometimes you got kind of a wide shot, and then you jump into like a close-up, and then you jump back to a medium close-up. Now you can overdo it and go a little too quick, but they did it at a really good pacing here.
Huh?
And what is your book called?
We need to go to Sophia.
We
Again, the microphone issue. We got some audio fuzz.
For, about 6 months now. We've been
Let's
in
go
Sophia's
here.
book for
Back up a little bit. So this one, we need some front light. The back looks great, but there's not enough front-facing light. And again, I know you don't have fancy light kits. Use a lamp if that's what you got. You can bounce light, bounce it off a reflector, do something to give me a little bit more face light there, or put her somewhere else where you got some natural light coming in too.
Working on Sophia's book for about 6 months now. We've been working with a kindergarten teacher who really spent time getting to know our family, talking to me and Sophia.
In her new book, Sophia talks about how important it is to be yourself and how she gets
Love that. Okay. Creative, thinking of it ahead of time. It's a creative angle with her reading the book. It makes sense for the story. She looks dressed professional. And then she transitions. So she pushes that towards the camera and then transitions out to the next spot. I love creativity in a story, and that kind of stuff you got to plan out a little bit.
to add her own story to her personal collection.
Just, it makes me realize, like, everyone is equal, and it's so awesome that we have this program and that the kids can now be into learning about other people.
Okay, now we have a working mic. I hope you can see the difference between that. Just drives me nuts listening to that audio. That first one and all that fuzz is so distracting. And then this person, nice, clean mic audio.
In the classroom, Sophia's peers make sure she is included
Yeah, do you want to play? Sure.
by helping her
I'll take this back.
when she is reading, writing,
Right.
and learning math skills.
Okay, look at that whole section and how they balance that between nat sounds and voiceovers. And it was very well done. I want to watch that little chunk one more time because that was really good.
Yeah, do you want to play?
A little soundbite,
By helping her
some nat sounds,
when she is reading,
voiceover,
writing,
Right.
nat sounds,
learning math
sound
skills.
bites.
10 grams.
proof that they have learned from her story.
Every experience or opportunity that is given to her leads to people understanding Down syndrome in a new and unique way, and it shatters stereotypes.
As Sophia's mom,
Others saying, I love you.
Jennifer's job is to teach her family life skills.
It's a bit.
Perfect.
Yes, I did it.
But what Sophia has taught her family is to always stand out and be beautiful.
Everywhere we go, it's kind of an honor to be next to her because
Now, some of that slow scaling with the back blur, obviously we were doing that on Final Cut. If you have access to that with some pictures and images, we like that about 8% scale on an image or, slight motion left or right. But obviously, if you're using phone, then it'll be a little bit hard to do.
she has such joy that she spreads to other people, and it's such a beautiful thing to witness.
Is your mom your best friend?
Yeah.
How come?
Because I love her so much.
You love her so much.
I do.
Reporting for WCTV 19 with photographer Emily Brumley, I'm Faith Abercrombie.
Also, she's like the cutest kid in the world. So, great story. And that, which also brings me to this, next point too, is just your subject. Pick a good subject that's interesting. Teach somebody something new or move them emotionally, something, I watch that and that's pretty cool. All right. This is one, I'm just going to kind of let this play through. I might pause it once or twice. This is one of ours. It got a first place in MAB. And he shot and edited this essentially in like 2-3 days. Is that Nat sound?
Brody's Bee Cafe, a cafe in Ada, Michigan that's a little bit different than most.
Tootsie Roll.
Oh, Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, what a weird word.
What sets Brody's apart is the type of workers they hire. The cafe currently employs 10 special needs workers who help make drinks, clean, and service customers. Manager at Brody's, Hayden Hoffman, sat down with Beyond the Rock to discuss the unique story behind how the cafe came to be.
Our owner is, her name is Jenny Cole, and she is...
This one, I'll stop here. Obviously, what do you think is wrong? The shot itself looks nice. I got the, rule of thirds, look in the right direction. Looks like my camera's eye level, my producer's eye level, like we talk about. But we need that light. You got to have that face light on that. Either that or she has to turn around and use that natural light coming in from outside for your interview. Might pretty well. I might put it a little bit lower so it's not so close to her neck. But overall, I think our audio recorded okay.
Is a middle school English teacher at Lowell, and her son is he's 12 years old. His name is Brody, and he has Down syndrome. And she wanted a place where, when he grew up, was old enough that he could have a job.
While Brody is currently too young to work at the cafe, the purpose of the cafe is bringing joy to others in the community. Alex told us the reasons why he enjoys his time at Brody's.
Listening to music. And working with Hayden.
Hayden loves working here too, and with open arms, greets those with special needs.
It's a place where they can come and be themselves and be safe, and they can belong. All the B words. You belong here. This is where you should be. Like, come, let us be with you, It's awesome.
I think we could
If you're interested in checking out the cafe, you can find their website at Brody's Bee Cafe or head down to their location on Thornapple River. This has been Braden Evans with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
All right, so again, very well done. That took a first place in MABs. And like I said, just a few days. As a side note, when things open up a little bit, you definitely need to go to Wood Splitters and throw axes because it was amazing. Okay, last one, and then we're done. This is a professional one. This one is one of my favorite stories that I show as a sample, usually in TV too. So I'm going to show it to you guys virtually. It's really cool. I'll let it kind of speak for itself. I won't pause as much in this one, but there are a couple spots of things I want you to pick up on it. So here you go.
Fulfillment of a promise. In 2011, Jason Kinsler trained to run the 25K in less than 2 hours, but he collapsed of a heart attack at mile 14. This year, his son and daughter are running the race in his honor. WZZM13's Meredith Torhar tells us about a tribute planned since the day Jason passed away.
14-year-old Jake and 16-year-old Hannah Kinsler are training for their first ever Riverbank Run 25K. A process that hasn't been easy for these teenagers.
Okay, that's one of those, that reality shoot that I talked about. They're miking them while they run and getting shots. And we got a cool low angle shot there, but I hear their breath as they're running. That kind of stuff is really important and helps out your story.
Being able to find time to run's hard, and just running that far is hard.
This past Saturday, I had a track meet, and then I had to run 14 miles right after.
These siblings are running for much more than to say they
Love
did.
that shot.
They're running to complete the race for someone else.
My dad actually passed away when I was 10 years old at mile 14, 1 mile from the finish line.
He had a heart attack and passed away. Rescuers they attempted to save him, but were unable to.
I love when they interview people, ask them the same questions, and then they can interweave their answers to tell the same story.
Jason was an experienced runner. He had trained to run the 25K in less than 2 hours.
He was the epitome of health from the outset. He ate right. He exercised every day. He had just had his physical. He didn't have high cholesterol, nothing, everything right.
Christy Kinsler never expected to go to the hospital that day.
Never in a million years can you prepare for something like that.
But she didn't want to leave.
This is the last time I'm going to hold his hand. Thinking about how am I going to find the courage or the words to go home and tell my kids that he's not coming home. How, in knowing that the minute I leave here, life as we know it is never going to be the same.
He was like my best friend, and we always did everything together. And we loved to watch the Lions. They weren't very good, but we'd still watch them. Another thing I like to do is fish. I would just spend as much time with him as I could.
My kids had to learn at a very young age that life is not always fair, but that they did not have to be defined by circumstance or what has happened to them. And they are 3 of the kindest, most compassionate kids you are ever going to meet. And that was their dad. That was Jason.
Now her children are following in their father's footsteps. Jake may train in these shoes, but he will finish the race in a different pair.
Here's
he
that.
was 8 years old when Jason passed away. And I remember.
I love that writing. And again, I kind of mentioned that earlier too, just that importance of writing. That transition was written so well. It just kind of gives you chills a little bit.
For him saying to me, someday I'm going to run that race in his shoes. And I remember telling him, I knew you'd say that. And that's why I have them. And I will keep them for that until you're ready.
Jason wore a size 12. Jake is growing fast, but he's more like a size 10.
Jake came up with the idea that if I would not allow him to run the 15 and a half miles in shoes that are 2 sizes too big for him, that he wants his dad's shoes waiting for him at mile 14.
I want to just finish the race for him, so I'm going to put on his shoes at the spot that he couldn't finish.
Right now, I can't even think about what that date will be like. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like to see them cross that finish line for him.
A family who lived through the searing pain of loss, learned compassion that comes with grief, and joy that comes with giving.
Not only are we doing this for our dad, but also we are raising awareness for this foundation that my mom has created and helping families who are going through similar things that we have.
The Jason Kinsler Family First Foundation helps families cope financially with the sudden loss of a breadwinner.
We are into our 5th year of this incredible foundation that is completely in his honor. We've helped over 60 families right here in West Michigan with things like funerals and rent payments and mortgage payments and health. And
these are just screen captures. You can screenshot, screen capture, things like that. If you have a Mac, you could do QuickTime to do some screen recording. Just something to add to your stories if you have the ability.
Insurance. What's been so amazing is some of these families are turning around and paying it forward to other families. Jason always put family first. So to think that, by helping others, we could be carrying forward his legacy that way, I know he is so proud. I know he is so proud.
It's here near mile marker 14 that Christy will have Jason's shoes for Jake to put on. It's sure to be a really emotional moment for everyone involved. The Jason Kinsler Family First Foundation has raised more than $200,000 for grieving families. And on Saturday, they hope to raise another $25,000. The youngest Kinsler, Josh, also running Saturday. He'll run the 5K. We're rooting for the entire Team Kinsler.
Okay, I love that. Just that ending transition, how they kind of panned over here with the tree or just kind of crabbed left a little bit and trucked over for the shot. And it was just a cool way that they got to kind of across the street and everything. Yeah, it was very well done, creative. So that was actually kind of cool too. I actually got to see him finish. I ran that riverbank run. And so when I crossed the line, he must have crossed before me. I saw him afterwards, and I don't know him at all, but it was kind of neat just to see his family around him, and all the news reporters were there covering his story. Kind of a cool thing. So anyways, those are some samples, right? We got a couple student samples. We got a couple, samples of, professional sample here. So this is just to show you how do you create a news package. And those are the basics, and that's a lot. Piecing all that together, writing that, voiceovers, sound bites, that's a lot. And right now, I know for a lot of you, you're shooting things on your phones. For quite a few, do the best you can with the elements of quality video production with the tools at your disposal. You can create some great stuff with your phone. I'm working on some stuff right now with my phone just to play with it myself, just to kind of show you some things that I'm getting. It's pretty cool. So I'll keep sending out more information in Schoology. I don't want to go any farther than that today. That's News Package 101 and giving you the basics. If you guys have any questions or need any more help or want more samples, just let me know. Send me a message on Schoology or something like that. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and I hope you have some fun shooting some videos. Talk to you soon. Bye.